Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, the first official Miami Hurricanes Power Hour of the 2024 college football season. Every single Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be taking a deeper dive into this Miami Hurricanes program. And a lot of this has to do with the amount of support the Miami Hurricane fans have shown the boys. One, that we love talking this program. The amount of support y'all continue to show is truly amazing. We can't thank you guys enough. So we're going to do our game previews for this program every single Sunday. And we're going to react to the football games every single Saturday. But during the middle of the week, we're going to take a deeper dive into this program. We might be looking back at a previous game and talking about what we saw, or kind of fast forwarding and looking at a matchup that we're going to see on the next Saturday. But every single Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, we're talking this Miami Hurricanes program. Now, before we get into it, as always, a massive shout out to the Miami Hurricane fans. It is such a blast talking this program, but I think more importantly, the amount of support y'all continue to show to the fellas, it truly means the world. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. We're going to be talking about, a few different things. One, some X factors in this football game that probably go beyond just the players on the football field. We're going to talk about the 5 most important players in this matchup against the Florida Gators. And finally, we're going to do a little bit of a stock report where we're going to buy and sell some players based on their performances. Obviously, with not a game being played, we're just going to be buying a few players that, at least in my mind, are probably flying under the radar for this Miami Hurricanes program. So would love to hear from you guys in the comments section. Without further ado, let's get into this X factor. And I think that is, can Miami come into what is going to be one of the more hostile environments that we see all of college football season and play their best football? Let's be frank. It's been something that Mario Cristobal has struggled with during his tenure at Miami. They've never seemed to play their best football on the road in these bigger environments. What's different about this Miami Hurricanes team? I think it starts at the quarterback position. You look at Cam Ward, he's played over 2,100 snaps during his college football career. But I think most importantly, this is a quarterback that's played his best football on the road in some hostile environments. You go back to his game on the road at Oregon in Autzen Stadium, a very good defense, throws for over 430 yards, doesn't turn the football over. This is a quarterback that, kind of feels different than a guy like Tyler Van Dyke going want to start. As Cam Ward is a guy that I think we have a lot of confidence can go into a hostile, difficult environment and play his best football. We're not used to saying that the last couple of years with this Miami Hurricanes program. I think secondly, you look at the quarterback center exchange, Zach Carpenter. And Zach Carpenter has played on the road at Nebraska, on the road at Penn State, has played in a lot of massive football games, over 1,800 snaps himself. So I look at the quarterback center exchange and talk about getting the communication up front, picking up blitzes the right way. You look at this Miami Hurricanes team and say, hey, we feel better about this Miami Hurricanes team with the personnel they have and all the experience they have going on the road and playing their best football. I think another question to have is this quarterback helmet communication, I guess you'd say, where you get to listen to your offensive coordinator, your play caller, up until 15 seconds on the play clock. It's new. We're not necessarily sure what the impact is going to be. That being said, you go back to week 0. We saw 2 quarterbacks in Haynes King and DJU who are, let's be frank, notorious for making some bad decisions, not really make those bad decisions week 0. Neither of them threw an interception. I wonder if that has anything to do with the helmet communication in terms of the offensive coordinator, the play caller, getting in the quarterback's ear and saying, hey, this is what we're looking at from the opposing defense. This is what you're going to do if you're hot. This is the throw that you certainly cannot make. You're going to get killed by. I wonder if that kind of matters as well. And so with these couple factors heading in, along with, I think your projected starting 3 wide receivers and Sam Brown, Jacoby George, and Xavier Restrepo all being seniors, this is a veteran team with an offensive line that's played a lot of snaps together. One of the biggest storylines is, hey, we think this Miami Hurricanes team has more proven commodities in terms of a talent standpoint than Florida. I think one of the biggest X factors in this football game is Miami heading on the road and playing their best football to win this game. I think because of some of these factors, you potentially feel better about Miami going on the road and playing their best football. Now, I think the second thing I want to talk about is the 5 most important players in this matchup against the Florida Gators. And I'm going to go to number 1, kind of an under-the-radar guy on the defensive side of the football, and that's C.J. Clark. And C.J. Clark's impact on this football game is not going to be reflected on the box score. We said the exact same thing 8 months ago when he committed to this Miami Hurricanes program. What does C.J. Clark do? He's that fire hydrant on the middle of the defensive line that's going to eat up double teams and allow other people on the defensive line and your linebackers to play a little bit more free and play a little bit more downhill. Is C.J. Clark going to come into this matchup and have 2 sacks, 2.5 tackles for a loss, and be a massive impact on the box score? No, probably not. That's not why Miami brought in C.J. Clark. But what you're looking at for C.J. Clark is first and second down is going to be so big for this Miami Hurricanes defense. Where you look at Florida's offense, they were very, very efficient. They weren't very explosive, but they were efficient. They were routinely staying on schedule, having those third and short situations. One of the keys for this Miami Hurricanes defense is getting Florida a little bit behind the chains. And I think that starts with winning on first and second down, specifically against the run. I think a guy like C.J. Clark's going to play a massive role in this football game, because you look at, if you can keep Miami kind of behind the chains in some of those obvious passing situations, that's where this Miami Hurricanes defense is going to be at its best. Because you look at this pass rush and say it is an elite pass rush, arguably one of the best pass rushes that we'll see not only in the ACC, but in the country. And so if C.J. Clark can have a monster game on the inside, again, not necessarily making the plays himself, but eating up double teams, keeping his linebackers free, winning on first and second down, forcing Miami into those third and long situations, that's going to be massive for this Hurricanes defense. I think one of the most important stats we're going to see in this football game is what is the average distance on third down for this Florida Gators offense. Because if it's 3rd and 7+, I think Miami's going to have an absolute field day on those third downs. I think the second one you want to talk, when you talk about getting Miami behind the chains, one, Ruben Bane's going to help with this, right? Ruben Bane, one of the things that is, at least in my opinion, one of the most underrated aspects of Ruben Bane's game is how good he is against the run. But I think secondly, he is an elite pass rusher. I still think he's the best pass rusher on this Miami Hurricanes defense, which says something, because they brought in some real dudes on this defensive line. You look at Florida's tackles. Austin Barber last year struggled. You look at some of his numbers and say Austin Barber, 16 pressures allowed, 5 sacks. You look at the right tackle position, they're bringing in a Mountain West guy and Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon. Both of these tackles, specifically Austin Barber, have struggled with speed to power edge rushers, meaning they struggle with edge rushers that can kind of just walk them to the lap of the quarterback. What does Ruben Bane do the best? He's one of the most powerful edge rushers that we'll see in the country. And so not only is Ruben Bane probably the best football player on this Miami Hurricanes defense, I think his specific skill set is, for lack of better terms, kind of primed to have a massive, massive game against the Florida Gators. So if you look at C.J. Clark and say, all right, if he can be a force on the inside and win on first and second down against the run, and then if Ruben Bane can be that elite pass rusher that is being extremely disruptive, walking tackles into the lap of Graham Mertz, that's probably the recipe for Miami to be smothering on the defensive side of the football. Last player on defense I want to talk about, that's Michel Powell, and that's for different reasons. One, he's going to be the veteran presence within this secondary, right? The biggest question mark we have is, all right, can Miami, which is a young and unproven secondary, play good football, not only against Florida, but really in 2024. This is why they brought Michel Powell in, a guy that has played in massive games, has played in the national championship, has played all over the field in the back end. So I think Michel Powell, one, from an experience and veteran leadership standpoint, that's probably number one. But I think more importantly, you look at Michel Powell, I mean, he can play that safety spot. He can play nickel. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of matchups where you see Michel Powell working against a guy like Eugene Wilson. That is Florida's key to the game. We talk about it. We're going to talk about it later this week. If Florida wants to win this football game, I think it's going to come on the back of a guy like Eugene Wilson. Can Michel Powell do his part in terms of mitigating and taking Eugene Wilson out of this Florida Gators offense? Probably another massive storyline for this Miami Hurricanes defense. And going to the offensive side of the football, this is kind of low-hanging fruit. We're not going to go with Cam Moore because we just talked a lot about him. I'm going to go to Damen Martinez, and I think for a couple of different reasons. One, you look at Florida on defense. They struggle stopping the run, gave up 5.1 yards per carry. That was outside of the top 100 in terms of rushing defense last year. But I think more importantly, can Damen Martinez be that workhorse back that Miami brought him in to be? You look at Damen Martinez, every single game, he had 19 plus carries in 2023. He went for over 100 yards. Can Damen Martinez have that kind of performance against Florida? Is going to be massive for a couple of different reasons. One, not only do we have question marks about Florida stopping the run, we have a lot of question marks about the depth on the inside of the defensive line. So if Damen Martinez can be a guy that it's 2nd and 5, and then it's 3rd and 1, and then we're moving the chains, he gets 20 plus carries, goes for $120, and keeps this Florida Gators defense on the football field come the 3rd and 4th quarter, I think you could maybe get to a little bit of the depth of this defensive line. And I think secondly, what's the best way to take a crowd out of a football game is just running the football, keeping the football in the offense's hands. Damen Martinez is going to play a massive role in doing this. I think Damen Martinez is the best asset that he brings to Miami, and I love that you're hearing him pop for some 40, 60-yard runs in fall camp scrimmages. Damen Martinez's best asset is he keeps this Miami Hurricanes team on schedule, right? He very rarely gets tackled for less than 3 yards. The stuff rate is extremely low when Damen Martinez runs the football. And look, just like we talked about Florida not wanting to get behind the chains, if you're Miami and you're going on the road with a new quarterback, you don't want to get behind the chains either. You have a running back that's 6 foot, 230 pounds that can keep you on schedule, can keep you in those manageable 3rd down situations where that playbook is open. Xavier Restrepo can work those short intermediate route trees. Damen Martinez having a massive game is probably going to be one of the bigger indicators in this football game, where if you just show me Damen Martinez's numbers, say, all right, he went for 22 carries for $150, you probably don't even need to show me the score. So I think Miami won that football game. Last guy I want to talk about is Xavier Restrepo, and for a couple of different reasons. One, the Miami Hurricane fans know that I am a massive fan of Xavier Restrepo. I think he might be one of the best wide receivers we see in the country. But most importantly, between this game, one, getting Cam Ward comfortable. There's not a better wide receiver in the country in terms of being quarterback friendly and getting a quarterback comfortable than Xavier Restrepo. And so I think that's number one. But I think number two, you look at the specific matchup in this football game against the Florida Gators and say he's going to have a massive opportunity against kind of some young nickelbacks, right? Whether it's Sharif Denson, whether it's Aaron Gates, both second-year guys. Xavier Restrepo is one of the most crafty wide receivers we see in the country. He's going to go up against some green nickelbacks. Can he win that matchup consistently, specifically in man coverage where, hey, we know Austin Armstrong, he's going to want to send some pressure. He's going to ask the secondary, his defensive backs, to operate a man coverage. Can Xavier Restrepo be that man beater in this matchup? Probably another storyline. And I think you look at Damen Martinez and Xavier Restrepo, if they both have big football games, you're probably winning this football game on the road. Now, the stock report. This is probably my favorite segment that we're going to do every single week. I'm going to buy and sell. I'm just going to buy. We're just buying right now because we haven't even seen a football game yet. So there's no reason to sell on any football players yet. On the offensive side of the football, I'm going to go Isaiah Horton. I think that there's so much buzz around the transfer portal addition of Sam Brown. Look, I love Sam Brown. Everything we're hearing from Isaiah Horton coming out of fall camp is he's going to be a guy. And you look at winning these kind of football games, you got to find one of those game-changing plays. What wide receiver can provide one of those game-changing plays? I think it's going to be Isaiah Horton. I don't know if he's going to start for Miami, but we know he's going to play. And if he gets an opportunity, one-on-one, working vertically down the field, we know Cam Ward can throw that deep ball. Can Isaiah Horton be one of those guys that gives Miami a game-changing play? That's the one player I'm buying stock in on offense. And going to the defense, I'm going to go with Akeem Mesidor. Another guy that, again, I think a lot of people want to talk about, you know, Tyler Barron coming through the transfer portal, or Simeon Barrow, or a guy like Elijah Alston. I look at Akeem Mesidor and say, this is a guy that can be one of the best football players on this Miami Hurricanes roster. Quite frankly, in 2022, might have been the best defensive lineman on this Miami Hurricanes team. Mario Cristobal has been very vocal that he looks kind of back to form. I'm looking at Akeem Mesidor and say, not a lot of people are talking about him. His stock price is probably relatively low. I'm going to buy some stock in Akeem Mesidor as well. We'll update the stock report next Tuesday at 12 p.m. We'll cut it down here. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. We look forward to doing every single Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern time, a little Miami Hurricanes Power Hour. We're certainly going to break down what we saw come Saturday afternoon. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.